Welcome back, Hang Squad, to another episode of Joy of the Hang. Hey, Lauren, how are you today?
Sharon, I am fantastic today on this beautiful, albeit hot Friday in Sarasota, Florida.
In Sarasota in May. It's my favorite month of the year here.
What makes May your favorite month?
Tourists are gone. The weather's perfect. It's not raining. It's not hurricane season. It's perfect. Everything about this month, I think, is perfect.
I'm wondering, since you just used the T word, the tourist word, what makes you, how long you have to live here to no longer be considered a tourist? I'm coming up on about 5 years, so I'm wondering if the locals would finally consider me, not a tourist.
I think when you buy real estate, you are actually, when you actually are paying taxes here, you are no longer a tourist.
Okay, there you have it.
Or paying rent somewhere.
There you have it.
That's my...
Sarasodian.
Do you have a Florida license?
I most certainly do.
Do you have a Florida phone number?
No. I have an LA phone number, Sharon. Can you imagine if I had to change my phone number, the debacle that would be? Reaching out to all of those people that I'm friends with to give them my new number.
Oh, this is a whole subject for another day, but we do have a guest today. Welcome, Kathryn.
Fabulous.
Kathryn Ross Nash. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for having us, actually, because we're at her beautiful studio here in Bradenton, Florida, and she is a very world-renowned classical Pilates instructor, and I'm going to read more about that. So, Kathryn, although introduced to the work of Pilates at age 14, began her classical Pilates training in 1982 and has had the privilege to study with first-generation teachers Romana Krzyzanowska, did I say that right? Excellent. Lolita San Miguel, Kathy Grant, Sari Mijasanto. I'm doing so well. I can't roll my R's, but I'm pretty good. I'm doing so well.
Be able to roll an R, but boy, can you say those names.
I'm doing pretty well. That's my journalism training. Jay Grimes and Edwina Fontaine. She was a Romana's Pilates Level 2 trainer. She completed comprehensive training through the Pilates Studio, Romana's Pilates, Authentic Pilates, and Lolita San Miguel's PMMP program. She's been certified by the National Pilates Certification Program and is a Guild-certified Feldenkrais practitioner. How did I do with that one?
Wow.
Wow.
Yay, I got a gold star, everyone. She was a principal dancer for 10 years with Ballet Hispanico of New York, where she sat on the board of directors for 3 years. Kathryn holds a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. That's impressive. Wow. I'm not messing with you. And an undefeated AUU sparring record. That is so cool. Kathryn worked closely with Romana for many years. Romana named her the founding vice president to her presidency of the Authentic Pilates Guild. Kathryn often traveled and demonstrated the work for Romana during her workshops. She's the only woman to demonstrate on both the Romana's Pilates mat and Legacy DVDs. She's the voice and teacher of the individual follow-along mat workouts. Romana is quoted about Mrs. Nash Ross saying, "Her work is like ice cream, poetry in motion, and she is one of her best. Romana's star of stars." Kathryn is also a featured teacher in Gratz Pilates DVD, J. Grimes Reviled. Kathryn appeared, alone with Romana, in multiple Pilates-style magazine articles. The featured instructor in the premiere issue, she served as a writer for their blog and magazine and sat on the advisory board. She's often a quoted expert whose advice on the method and its authenticity is sought after worldwide. To celebrate her 55th birthday, she had the honor to grace the cover of Pilates Style magazine as the oldest single cover model in their history. This cover included a 10-page spread featuring her work, The Red Thread. She can also be found on her own KathyRossNash.com, Pilatesology, and Pilates Anytime. Kathryn's client list spans the athletic and entertainment industry. In 2016, she was bestowed the honor to be the first instructor to teach Joe's work on the Isle of Man at the site of Camp 4, where Joe Pilates was interned. She was the first Pilates instructor to train the dancers of the Vaganova School in St. Petersburg, Russia. Kathryn has taught in Moscow, Chile, Australia, Spain, Russia, Germany, England, Portugal, Scotland, Israel, Brazil, Costa Rica, and throughout the United States. Her hooks have elevated the level of the work in the Pilates method. Her books, I'm sorry. These books include the Little White Mat book, KRN Pilates Then, Now and In Between, The Red Thread of Pilates, Integrated System and Variations of Pilates, The Mat, The Red Thread of Pilates, Integrated System and Variations of Pilates, The Foundational Reformer, The Red Thread of Pilates, Integrated System and Variations of Pilates, The High Chair, The Red Thread of Pilates, Integrated System and Variations of Pilates, The Arm Baby Chair, is model for Prevention Stretcher Self-Healthy book and creator and model for Prevention Easy Healing Stretches DVD. In April of 2023, her new book, in conjunction with the editors of Prevention Stretch Away Pain, 5 minutes a day to ease aches all over, will be, I guess it has been released now. It has been released. And Kathy says, my favorite thing in the world is to be able to teach the work I believe in so strongly as my teachers so generously gave it to me. And welcome, Kathy. That was a mouthful.
Yeah,
wow.
Apparently. I need to update it too. I left some things out there.
I think you need to do a little more. I don't think you've done enough.
Kathy leaving a few things out, I'd like for all our listeners to give the cliff notes. Kathy is stunningly beautiful, stunningly in shape, stunningly chic, and looks like a fashionista. And as we sit here at her lovely compound, she also trains Australian sheepdog. So it would probably be easier for you to learn things that she has not mastered or accomplished than fight through her bio. So that, you're welcome, is the cliff notes.
Right. So where do we start with all that? So tell us, how did you get into Pilates? Start there.
When I was very young, I was very, very hypermobile, and a friend of mine said, go to this teacher in New York City, Raoul Jalabert, and I started training dance with Raoul Jalabert. He was the forefather of kinesiology in dance. And I would model for him at Lincoln Center, and he would write, those of you who are dancers, in the back of Dance Magazine, there was always exercises for dancers. So he would write that. So he was very, very known for that. Later on, when I joined Ballet Hispanico, my mentor, Tina Ramirez, suggested that I go with her to meet this woman, Romana Krasnowska. And I was hypermobile. I also always had struggled with my weight, so she wanted me to learn Pilates to prevent injuries and to create long and lean muscles, as I had been Russian trained by Fokine, so my muscles were thicker from kind of forcing things instead of learning the correct kinetic way to move. So that's how I ended up doing Pilates.
And that's interesting because that was because I always thought kinesiology, am I saying that correct?
Kinesiology, yeah.
Kinesiology was a much newer, more recent.
Oh, no. That was in the 70s.
Okay. And I guess that's just whereas it transitioned over to the normal people, because on that same note, for those of us who haven't been classically trained in any type of dance, at what time, do you say, I'm trying to think what year it was that people started to focus on wanting to do the exercises that dancers did to have the long, lean muscles, avoid injury, but to look in shape and lean and have muscle, but not look muscly?
I think it was around Jane Fonda. I mean, do you remember Jane's videotape?
Right?
And she had the dancer, little
leggings,
leg warmers, and her little outfits. I think it was really around that time that people started evolving into that sort of look. And that was before women started getting really bulky. I mean, we vacillated back and forth. We went from a very sedentary lifestyle where people started, they were behind a desk, they weren't moving, and they started seeing the problems that evolved from that. So then they started moving. And so if you remember, you'll see in the 50s that women started going to exercise class, right? And then Jane Fonda was really, to me, the tipping point where it started fusing dance with fitness.
Okay.
So it was around that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sharon and I always like to put out there, we are certainly not, as we discuss the bodies of women as it refers to Pilates and the dancers' bodies, suggesting that that is the only way one needs to look. We know that how you choose to look is personal preference. Some women like to lift very heavy weights. It makes them happy. They like to have a sort of stronger, bigger look, and that's totally okay. You do you. We're just focusing today on the art of Pilates and the dancer's body, what have you.
So it's very interesting because Pilates does have that connotation. But the reality is I've trained professional soccer players and football players, and my son, who was a top football star in New Jersey, never lifted weights his entire high school career. Wow. I forbid him. And I went in and I spoke to the coach, and I'm kind of one of those people that I feel I need to always come from an educated standpoint if I'm going to argue something.
Right.
So I didn't want him to lift weights, so I went and got myself a weightlifting certification so I could speak to his football coach. And at the end of our conversation, I looked at him and I said, I had a very long dance career. I have had 2 children. I am still moving and in shape, and you are crippled. And I'm not saying weightlifting is wrong at all. I'm just saying the way that they were training these young people was not for these young people.
Yeah.
And so I said, listen, if he's not performing, you pulled him up as a freshman to play varsity. If he is not performing the way you want, next year we'll sit down, we'll have this conversation about him lifting weights. We never had the conversation again. And Zach was a big boy. You can use the Pilates method to hone and sculpt the body for whatever it needs to exist in its life.
Well, you were truly, truly ahead of your time with that, because I played lacrosse in college, as did my husband, and I'm 53, so I was in college 1989 to 1993, and they had us doing the same type of workout, the men's team was, and it wasn't till later when a lot of these coaches realized the benefit of that style of workout. And I remember in, maybe 10 years ago being in a Bikram yoga class and seeing several of Jay Wright's Villanova basketball players in the Bikram yoga class, and I thought, wow, how far we have come. So you are truly ahead of your time.
It was so wonderful that Zach's friends, my son, started coming to train with me. And I would have all these wonderful young football players who really, have integrated it into their life.
Fun, is that the word you're going to use, Sharon? How fun to have all of these young football players at your house. Fun isn't the word I was thinking, but just to be appropriate, we'll stick with fun.
No, I say that because I love having my kids around.
Oh, it was great.
So that's why I say that.
That's
why I say, how special for that to have that time. Yeah.
It really was, to have that bond.
And it should be, to that note, with anything in life, whatever you're doing, whether it's something on the professional side, business, working out, playing a sport, I love the fact that it was about the results you're getting, right? That's what it should be. If your son was a freshman performing at a varsity level, that should have been enough to show anyone that that's the result you want. So it doesn't matter how he gets there.
Correct. And you have to enjoy it. I mean, I love my work, and I believe that if you love your work, good things follow. If you enjoy your life, good things follow. I love my dogs. I love raising my kids. I love my work. I mean...
How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
2, me too. Same. She has 3.
Okay. It sort of seems in some ways, though, Kathy, that you were born to be a teacher, because it just seems like you have lesson after lesson, whether it be with Pilates or dance or children or dogs or The bio is so long I could name 50 other things, but it seems you have a wonderful capacity to teach.
I love to learn.
Okay.
I love to learn, and I love to step into things that I know nothing about and have that uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And so I think that when I teach, I understand when somebody's coming in where they're coming from, because I keep reminding myself and stepping into these new situations to learn. And I think that if you love to learn, it can kind of go hand in glove with your ability to teach.
Okay.
So I have a question for you. Right before I came here, I actually stopped at a store, and the woman had a fantastic body. And I said to her, "Wow, you look great. How do you stay in such great shape?" She said, "I do Pilates." Isn't that the weirdest thing?
That's so funny.
So yeah, I mean, it's just so serendipitous, as Gretchen would say, because we were coming to meet today. But yeah, so she said, and I said, "Can I ask where you do it?" She goes, "No, I go to Club Pilates."
Yeah.
Now, you and I had talked about this a little bit when we first met. So tell me what the difference is between what you teach and the franchise Club Pilates. Is there much of a difference?
There's a huge difference, but let me say this. Every level has benefit for you, okay? You need to understand your body, and you need to understand your own constraints and limitations. The work that I do, well, okay, I'll put it this way. Gretchen makes bespoke bags.
Right.
Every bag represents the woman that is carrying it. It has its color, its texture, its style, right? It's bespoke. It's an amazing gift. If you go to Saks and you buy a bag there, other people might have that bag, but it's still a good bag. It's still a beautiful bag.
Right.
What I do is I train instructors on how to look at the body before them and apply Pilates as a method to build the skills for each of the exercises, and then each of those exercises layer upon each other, so that you are always building the body with balance and alignment. And when you look at a body that is well trained, I really don't care about size. I mean, to me, there's health. As long as you're healthy, everybody's body has a different size.
So would you say to that note, though, you train teachers?
Yes.
Do the teachers that come here to train with you, do their body types span an array of different bodies, or do most of them primarily look the way any of our listeners would sort of in their head imagine that they look?
They are all shapes and sizes.
Okay.
Health and alignment does not go necessarily hand in glove with what we think is aesthetically correct.
Okay.
We're women. Some have curves, some don't have curves. Some are naturally thin, some aren't naturally thin. Some have beautiful bosom and beautiful bottom, and some are flat on both ends. The beautiful thing about Pilates is that it really focuses on the individual and the individual's needs to improve the quality of their life. And that's where I get so much joy from, because you have somebody that comes in and they don't even realize sometimes that they're misaligned and in pain, and they leave and their attitude changed and their lightness to them. And they're free to move differently than they had been able to move prior to coming to the lesson. And so the method that I teach will look at your body and whoever's body walks in here, and I go, okay, first thing in my head I'm going to build is the 100 Joe Pilates first mat exercise. What does this person need to fulfill the requirements needed for this exercise? And within doing so, it balances your body systematically.
Now, where are the teachers that you teaching?
All over the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for all different studios,
Oh, yes.
private studios?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then what very specifically are they able to put on their CV or their resume?
That they trained with me.
That they trained with you.
That they trained with
Okay.
me. And that, so you either there's 2 certificates that you get I have a program that is anywhere from 12 months to 16 months, depending on the group. And they have to do a thesis and analysis of a body. So they have to teach 10 lessons. I look at how they put the 10 lessons together. And these are all teachers that have been comprehensively certified already for 5 years. That's the minimum that I will take someone in. And they have to come 4 times. There's homework. There's tests for each segment that they do. And then there's this big, So they have a certificate of completion, which means they've completed it. And then there's a certificate of graduation, which means they have to pass every test. The last comprehensive test, they have to fulfill all the homework, and they have to successfully do their thesis. So those who have accomplished that can put their graduates of the Red Thread program. And they also have to every year come back and do minimum 12 hours of continued certification to be able to be listed on the website.
And then I do have to ask the question, we had talked about before what's important is the result you're going for. And so I have a question for what you would recommend to someone who listens to this. They're very interested in it, but let's be very honest. Pilates is not an inexpensive thing to do. I do realize that there is no value you should be putting an immense value on your health and your well-being, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to pay your bills. What advice or suggestion would you have for anybody who's listening, who's thinking, well, I can't afford to just go sign up to the local whatever Pilates is? Where would you suggest that they start?
There's lots of books. There's lots of stuff online.
Yeah.
But if you're doing any of that, get mirrors. Invest in mirrors.
Okay.
Look at your alignment when you're doing it.
I think anyone can afford a mirror. You can go to Goodwill and buy
We all have mirrors in our home.
We all have mirrors. But seriously, yes, you can go to Goodwill. You can put the mirror on the ground, get a nice little cushy mat, and then check your alignment.
Okay.
Don't try to feel. I actually just have this shirt that I just made in Pilates, feelings aren't facts. Because you could feel that you're straight, and you're not.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So you
don't get the feeling that you're straight. Is that what it was? Did I mess that all up? I totally messed that all up. I totally messed that up.
Many people feel that their alignment is straight, and you've seen people walking around and they're like this, and they're crooked and bent over, and they think that they are in alignment. Or they'll be standing there, one shoulder will be dropped, or be standing into one hip, right?
Yeah.
Well, this habitual movement pattern will continue when you're working out. So if you don't, you need to see it. I have a book out on Prevention magazine for prevention, and it is wall Pilates. It is 26.
I was going to ask you about that.
I do.
You just took my next question away from me. So,
See,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry if I jumped the gun. I just got really excited because wall Pilates was my next question. So have at it. Wow.
Here's wall Pilates. So it's $26. It's on Amazon. It's prevention. Just go for it. Just use mirrors. It breaks things down 3 different levels. It's a really great workout, and you get the resistance. If you can't afford to go to a studio and have somebody with hands-on, this is a great alternative. Now, just so that I know wall Pilates seems all new, but I have been doing wall Pilates since I was 19 years old. Because I would leave my mentor, Romana, and I'd go on tour with the ballet company. And I didn't have her hands on me. So what would I do? I'd press my feet on the wall, like on my foot on the foot bar. I would put my back against the wall so I could press against the wall as I was lying on my side to get the feedback of the wall and the constraint so I didn't move my hips. So I've used the wall as my studio equipment. Well, let's just say I'm 61, so a long time. So it's not something that's new. It's just something that has, come into the world recently. So definitely, if you can't afford to go to a studio, this book will be
And this
great.
is a book you wrote.
It is a book I wrote.
And what is it called?
It's called Wall Pilates 101.
Okay, just Wall Pilates
Yes,
101.
101. If you go to Amazon
Yep.
and you put Kathryn Ross Nash,
Okay.
Wall Pilates, or prevention, it comes up.
All right,
Okay, so
I have a
all
question.
you young
Oh, go
ones,
ahead.
real
Yeah.
quick, listening to this, and who are, because I know a lot of, say, Davis Rose, my daughter's friends who might be listening, and they're not that age yet, but they're getting near the age. They have siblings who are getting married. Do yourself a favor, buy that book, because you want to look like Kathy.
At age 61.
I know it shouldn't just be about a moment in time, but then you'll look great for the rest of your life. Like, forget all the other stuff they tell you to do prior to a wedding or graduating from college, and you want to look great. Just do yourself a favor, spend the $26 and go buy this book.
Well, first of all, I wanted to comment. I have taken some Pilates classes and found it very intimidating when I walked in and saw. So we're actually sitting in Kathy's studio right now, and if you look around, there's a lot of equipment that looks like you could be doing S&M. Let's just
Sharon.
I'm just
Sharon,
saying. It's
how do
bright,
you know what S&M equipment looks like?
It's bright red leather covered, and some of them have leopard print on them. Some of the mats. I'm looking around, going, "All right, there's a lot that you could do in here. That would be a lot of fun.
Chains,
a lot of
there's
chains,
a lot of straps.
a lot of straps. Yeah, you
couple
probably.
bars.
And actually,
I'm
that's
sure you get
actually
that
a
a
great.
lot, yeah.
That's actually a great question, Sharon.
Right?
It is.
It's
Now I'm
very
looking around
overwhelming,
and
right?
My eyes are wide, and it is.
Yeah.
It's intimidating because you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, how would I ever learn how to do this?" Or I'm gonna, they're gonna laugh at me.
Well,
Good
and
question.
also, the second part to that is you go to a group class like Club Pilates, which I did, and you don't have one-on-one instruction.
Correct.
And so it made it even more overwhelming because you're in a class with people who've been taking the classes, even though it was an introductory class. So I'm like, what mat do I put where? What do I do? What strap do I do here? How do I move these cables or whatever
Right.
they're called?
You were worried about rolling your R's. Pretty easy compared to figuring out all the whips
figuring
and
out
chains
what to
and
do with this
snaps and
this bed that looks like you should be on a gurney, right? That is, yeah. So anyway, that it's just for a beginner, and I'm 59, so if I'm going to begin Pilates and walk into a class like that, like what is your, or maybe I don't walk into a class. What's your advice for a beginner?
My feeling is save the money, go get some private lessons
Okay.
so that you're not intimidated.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Would you walk into a class that had all pianos lined up and expect yourself to play the piano if you were next to all these people that have been playing pianos for years?
What are you laughing about?
When you put it like that, it seems absolutely ridiculous and
Right.
absurd. So
Right.
it's
But
really
we put
funny.
it on ourselves.
You're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You wouldn't. You would
Right.
never. You would never. But we go into these fitness classes and we think, I should know. I feel stupid. No.
Yeah.
No. We never. You would never walk into another. I say learning Pilates is like learning another language, right? You would
Yes.
never walk into a Spanish restaurant and expect to read the menu if you've never taken Spanish.
Right.
So you need to be prepared. We always have to we have to prepare to succeed, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to walk into some place. Now, if it is where everybody here has done nothing,
Right.
that's a different story.
Right. You're all starting from zero.
Exactly.
Yeah. Getting the same instruction.
Exactly.
Right.
But you can't expect to walk into a class where people know what they're doing and, play concert piano.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. It was
That's a great-
very intimidating.
That's a great analogy.
It is.
And we're
great
so hard
analogy.
on ourselves, and we shouldn't be.
We are too hard on ourselves.
So tell me how you became a second black belt. Is that what we're
Second-degree black belt.
second degree black belt? Tell me about that.
It's multifaceted. So Joseph Pilates was a wrestler and a martial artist,
Okay.
a boxer. I come from a family of martial artists. Boxing, my grandfather actually would go train boxers at Gleason's gym in Patterson. I mean, I have a whole history back there. And my father and my brothers were very much into wrestling. My father founded the Ridgewood Junior Wrestling Program in New Jersey, which was years ago. It's huge now. Both my brothers wrestled high school, college, so I was always around this sort of masculine physicality. And I actually wrestled, even though I was a professional, I wrestled till I was like 7th grade, and my father's like, you cannot wrestle anymore. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
So anyhow, when I was pregnant for my son, I just found out I was pregnant. I was still dancing. I was in New York City, and a homeless man went at my dog. And my instinct was not to run away. My instinct was to go after the guy. So I realized, well, if this is who I am, we have to understand who we are. One, I better learn
How to protect yourself.
How to protect myself.
Yeah, right.
If my gut is to fight, not flight, I have to know who I am and go forward that way. And then, Joe Pilates was a martial artist, so I didn't want to go back to dancing after I had my son immediately. I danced, but I didn't want to, when you're performing at the level that I was dancing, to go back and not be at that level, it just wasn't something. And like I said, I love learning something new. So I'm like, okay, let me start training in the martial arts. So I did, and shocking, I found out that I love to fight. So
Is that how the sparring came about?
Yes. That's how the sparring came about. So, I loved it. I mean, you want to talk about being present. You drop your guard for 1 second, and that's also what you need in Pilates. Your mind goes for 1 second, and you're out.
That's so funny you say that, because that makes perfect sense to me. I've always said I struggle working out, and the most important thing is working out. I struggle doing a workout where I have to be consistently present,
right?
Which is why I've probably always focused on the more sort of intense or running where I can just zone out.
Right.
And I've found, as I'm in full menopause, I had a hysterectomy, I'm now going to be 54, that my body responds and wants the type of exercise where I need to remain present. And we'll talk about that for many times forward about, the changes in your body and menopause, what have you. But, I would think this would be something really spectacular for women to look into who are going through menopause, to make sure they choose a type of exercise. One, obviously you have to love it, but something that makes them stay present.
Is it a good practice to start later in life?
Oh, absolutely.
So
I have a student he's 66, and he had studied a little bit prior to the pandemic, and talking about doing things, he ended up buying all the equipment, but he really, at 66, he has gone from being totally kyphotic to straight up. And this is a man.
Wow, that's
And
great.
so in 7 years of training, his body has totally changed. My husband, talk about funny. So I've been married 37 years. He started Pilates in the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
He listed, because the gym was closed.
So he was a lifter.
He lifted, he played racket sports, he's a golfer.
Wow.
So during the pandemic, the gym closed. And, my clients, I couldn't see, at the time I was seeing students in New Jersey, and I couldn't see my students. And I love to teach, and I love to keep my creative juices flowing. And so I looked at him and I'm like, come on. So he started doing Pilates. And I filmed his first 30 lessons, because Joe Pilates himself said, in 10 lessons, you'll feel better. In 20 lessons, you'll look better. In 30 lessons, you'll have a whole new body, or your money back. Now, he wasn't paying, so I didn't have to worry about that. But he is addicted. He is addicted now. His golf game he looks younger than ever. People see him, they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, Pilates. And I have my students that come train him so that I get feedback on them. He is a great student. And talk about he was one of those people that didn't like to lift, didn't like to work out, didn't like to focus. His focus is amazing. and his work is very, very, very pure. And this is not, we think dancer body. This is a 60-year-old man who started this later in life, and his quality of life has so improved that he looks 10 years younger.
Wow.
That's what's
I
key
know, I love
to
that.
the quality of life. I mean, I'm just starting to really, pay attention to people's posture and people, our age getting older and struggling to do certain movements. And I just think quality of life is everything.
Absolutely. I mean, you need to be able to balance. You need to be able to get up and down off of things. We don't, unfortunately, a lot of physical activity that we do does not focus on that. It's frustrating for me that the fitness community is really not the fitness community anymore. It's the thinness community. And it really has nothing to do with fitness. It has to do with thinness. And I really feel we need to spin our focus away from that.
Yeah.
And have a more holistic view on wellness.
Well, I also like the fact, I love that saying, because I think it's wonderful, and it'd be nice if we would change that to focus on wellness instead of thinness. I am intrigued, though, by what you said about your husband's golf.
Yes.
Getting better, because my husband has always poo-pooed going to do any type of Pilates type class together, but he's very into right now making his golf game better. And I just got a little warm fuzzy because I thought, I bet if I tell him after today, hey, just give it 20 classes, or even 10 to feel better, you have nothing to lose.
Right.
It's not going to make your golf game worse. I bet that would be enough for me to get him to do a Pilates class.
Oh, absolutely.
Would Pilates heal my back pain?
Okay, I don't like to say it heals anything.
Okay, all right.
I don't like to say it heals anything. I will say that over my years of teaching, many people that had back pain did the work. Those dedicated to the work
Felt some relief.
alleviated the pain.
Okay. Well said. Well
I
said.
talk about, so one thing I do to keep myself grounded to the work is, not right now because I'm in the middle of 2 weddings and building a house, but I annually take a student that has never done Pilates, and in 10 weeks I give them 30 lessons like I did my husband, and it's to keep me grounded in the work. And one of my last students was a golfer who was 70 years old. And he had back injury, he had knee injuries, he had shoulder, he had a lot of different things in his body. And he was with me, and then he had reconstructive knee surgery right before we started. And he won the senior golf tournament when we had been done with our 30 lessons. He won and he attributes it all to the method and the work.
That's incredible. Wow. That's a good endorsement, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
That is
It
amazing.
also, though, and you just beyond the movement itself and what it does for your body, probably the whole learning aspect of being present while you're doing Pilates and then incorporating that into something else you do. Here
Yes.
it's golf, but
Yes.
being
Yeah.
present in what you're doing with, your backswing and your putting, and it could probably, to be honest, help you in a lot of other aspects of your life
absolutely.
just by teaching you to be present.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing that we don't realize is anything that is repetitive movement. You have to think of it like a river. So if I have repetitive movement, it's like a current going down. What happens when you have a current that's strong? It makes the hole dig deeper and deeper, right?
Right.
It wears it out. Repetitive movement does that. What Pilates does, what correct Pilates does, is it realigns the body. So if you're a golfer and you're swinging all the time to that left, right, or you're following through, you're transferring that weight onto that front leg, you're twisting in one direction, every time you swing, you've already had that river go further. So your swing is going to eventually not be your swing and not feel like your swing anymore because the root keeps changing, right? It keeps changing. Think about people who stand on their hip. the hip goes further out and further out and further out and further out, and all of a sudden they have back pain, hip pain, knee pain, right? What Pilates does is it brings you back to homeostasis. It brings you back to balance. It recenters everything so that your left equals your right, your front equals your back. The muscular development is symmetrical all the way around. Therefore, your swing maintains its integrity as opposed to becoming that river deeper and deeper and deeper each swing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I can't wait to try it again. With a private
second
instructor.
we finish, I'm doing what I do best, which is going on my phone and making an online purchase to buy the
we should go
Pilates
together.
$26.
Well, we should go to a class together. We could do something.
We should buy the book and.
Well, yes, for sure. We'll
So
do
just
that
so that you know,
Yeah.
I'm promoting this book. I'm promoting because I believe in it. I don't get any kickbacks.
It's okay if you
No,
do.
but
I want to be clear because I don't. A lot of times when people are endorsing something, it's because it's for their profit.
Right.
I have no profit from this. I am telling you because I really believe
in it,
and I really think that it could help people.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. I just need to be realistic about what I'm going to do, and I know that that's something I could actually benefit from and would use, as opposed to pretending that I'm going to, sign up for Pilates class and actually do it consistently when I already do other
modalities. If you don't mind me suggesting something,
please suggest away.
So make yourself culpable. The two of you say, okay, I'm going to get the book, and we're going to every Monday at, I'm going to say 2:00.
Okay.
We're going to do this, whether you do it at your place, you do it at your place.
I love that.
But
Accountability.
you have accountability.
You're my accountability partner now.
And
right?
you text, and you
I like that, though. I'm a creature of habit. I like to have something on my schedule,
it has
and
to
I
be
can
set.
check it off.
It has to be set. If you don't set the time and make it non-negotiable, it won't work. You have to set 3 hours a week.
I was going to say that just brought up another question for me. So how often should you do it a week? Should you do it
3 times a week.
3 times a week for an hour?
3 times a week.
For 1 hour, okay.
Yeah, 3 times a week.
And I agree, it's prioritizing. I mean, I have always said to friends of mine that have struggled to do some type of fitness routine, and, not to be harsh, but I've said, well, I've never seen you with your roots not touched up or your nails not done.
Right.
So if you can make the time and a priority to get your nails done frequently and have your hair cut and the roots done, you can make time to find some type of fitness routine.
And your health. I mean, it's everything. I've had so many clients that when they started with me, they went to see the chiropractor, they would go for massages, they did 20 million things, and then after training 3 times a week, they didn't need the masseuse, they didn't need the chiropractor, they didn't need all these other expenses, and they felt great. So, you owe it to yourself to have 3 hours a week for your mental, physical well-being. 3 hours.
I'm always saying if you don't invest in your wellness, you're going to be investing in your sickness.
Absolutely.
I mean, one way or another, you're going to be paying for it.
One way you always pay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's like with food where they say if you don't, eat the right food as medicine, later on in life you'll be eating medicine as your food.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I believe that, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about all these dogs.
Oh, yes.
How did you end up? So you train Australian Shepherds.
I breed, train, and compete with them.
Breed, train, and compete. When did that start for you?
So I am a very sappy, passionate sort of person. My grandfather was one of my favorite all-time people.
Mine too. Oh, a soft spot for my grandfather
Big time.
too. Is he still with you?
No.
No, mine isn't either.
No. He raised Boston Terriers, and his dream was always to breed a dog and show it and make it to Westminster. And when I was a young girl, I used to sit on his lap and he'd tell me stories of shows, and I would go with him when he would bathe and trim the dogs, and He never championed a dog. He never got a dog to be a champion. And so years ago, down in the Hotel Pennsylvania, across from Madison Square Garden,
I know exactly where that is.
Yes, there would be a dog show for the people that didn't make it to Westminster. So my grandfather was always at the Hotel Pennsylvania showing. He never made it to the garden. So on his deathbed, he told me one of his regrets was that, he never did it. And I said, Pop, I'll do it for you. And I did my first Australian Shepherd litter that I bred. And 2 of those pups went to the garden, and then their pups went to the garden. And there's actually New York Times had a picture, and it was my friend showing one of my dogs, me showing a dog, my son showing one of my dogs, and my daughter showing one of the dogs, all lined up.
Oh my God. See, Sharon, was that in the bio? Was that in the bio? See, what did I tell you? It'd be easier to say what she hasn't accomplished.
It was so
That's incredible.
I love every time I'm with them. My kennel is Te Amo, which was after the cigars he used to smoke, which also means I love you. But every time I'm with them, part of him is alive.
You're with him. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. How many do you have right now?
8. Well, I have
8.
8 that I let live with me. I co-own several dogs throughout the world, which is great because I get to share my passion with other people that really share this passion. But I have my eldest is almost 15.
Okay.
And my youngest is 5 months.
Have you made it to Westminster yet?
Oh, many times.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
many times.
All
Yeah.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And he's always with me when I go.
He'd be so proud.
Yeah, that's a wonderful. I mean, the win in and of itself is spectacular, but just the fact that it was something your grandfather never got to do, and then you made it there.
I'm curious, what's it like to be a dog breeder? So how long ago did you start it?
So my first Australian Shepherd litter was, my kids are 32, so 28 years ago was my first
So
litter.
you bought a male and a female?
No.
Okay, how does it work?
Okay, so there's many ways that it works.
Okay.
But as you can tell, I like to do things really, 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 really methodically and
well thought out.
Yes. So I bought my first one to learn, and she was very, very sweet, but she wasn't what I wanted to show. And so my grandfather had told me, get yourself a nice little line bred female and move forward from that. So I found this beautiful line bred female, and I bought her. And then I studied to see which mixes, which pedigrees worked. And the line that I had bred to this other line seemed to produce really nice dogs. So that was my first breeding. And the 2 that I kept ended up being champions, and those were ones that went to Westminster, and I showed them.
Okay.
So I'm not a professional. I show my own dogs, and I handle and I groom and everything. But so that is how I did. And you really need, when you're looking for a dog, go see where the dog came from. See what the people do with the dog. Get health clearances. Just like everything else in this world, the effort somebody puts in is your benefit, you know. I just did eye clearances on all my dogs yesterday. So they go to the ophthalmologist every year. They get hips and elbows. They get a panel of 500 tests done before I breed them. So I know exactly what is going into the breed. And
I think my husband would have liked to send me to that for that test
Before he knew what he was getting into.
before I knew what he was
Oh
getting
my
into.
God.
I told my husband, I go, half of us would never been bred if we were dogs.
right.
You'd be like, you're a pet, spay neuter. Spay neuter.
So to the left, to the right. Just
Like-
saying. Just saying.
So what makes a dog a champion? What do you look for?
Structure.
Structure.
Structure for me first. Breed type. So does it look like an Australian Shepherd? Does it have structure, form, and function? This breed was meant to do a certain thing. Can it do that? So that's...
Why'd you
for
pick
me,
that breed out of all the breeds?
My grandfather had loved German Shepherds, and he had told me to get myself a nice little working dog, meaning for him, he was of a different generation, a herding dog. And I love the intelligence. It's a double-edged sword, trust me. Trust me. Especially when they learn to open doors and let the other dogs out and open crates, and which they do. But I'm the type of breeder that when I have a dog, I have it for its life. Unless one of my kids steals it from me. I have it for its life. So I do different venues with them. I do rally and obedience, I do sheep herding, I do agility. Prior to moving down here, I did therapy work. My dogs are angels on a leash, so they would go to hospitals, visit children, and their the ones that are there now, their mother and grandmother and great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother generations, she was one of the top therapy dogs, and she would go to Javits Center, which is massive in New York City. They would have
book conventions
huge,
there, and it's huge.
Huge. And she would go be with the autistic children that had autism and epilepsy. And she was one of the dogs that was of the ranking that she could deal with all this. Her name was Hope. That she could deal with all this commotion. And she would I would remember walking into a room and there'd be a child and it would be screaming. The child would be scared. They didn't know, in a hospital, they didn't know what was going on. And the parents would be frantic because they couldn't settle their child. They couldn't help their child. And Hope would come in and she'd put her head down. And and you see the child just calm down and pet the dog. And the child's world became calm, and then the parents' world became calm because this magical being could connect on a level that we were not able to connect on.
I think dogs are magical beings, and that's why, not to turn it dark, but I think there's a special place in hell for people who do mean things to dogs. And I love that story, and I don't have to have been there to have completely believe and know that it's true, because I know the power of love that dogs just exude. It comes out of their every essence.
Right, and they're so in tune with you.
So in tune.
They so know when you were saying earlier, if you're upset, they get upset and
yes.
tense.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Yeah, we have a black lab right now that we're taking care of, and same. If we have I have a cut right here, all he wants to do is lick it and make it better, He's he's a good boy.
He is. Murphy's a good boy.
Murphy's a good boy. Yeah, he's high energy, but he's a good boy. We have to teach him to stop jumping, but yeah. That's more us that need to be taught, I think, right? I need to be taught how to train.
You learned to stop jumping quite well.
I've learned to stop jumping, but I need to learn.
Good job, Sharon. Good job.
Thank you.
Do you want a cookie, Sharon? You want a cookie, Sharon?
Yes, I need a treat. Do you have one? Chocolate chip, please? Oh, boy. So let's see. You've worked closely with legends in the Pilates world.
Yes.
Was there ever a moment during your training that completely shifted your perspective? Something a teacher said or a correction that stuck with you forever?
I don't think it was one thing. I mean, to be honest, when I started Pilates, I hated it. I'm just going to be brutally
You
honest.
hated it.
I love when you.
I know. Thank you for the honesty.
Thank you for the honesty.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was like, I was a dancer. I wanted to be all over the place, and Romana was like, behave yourself. And I have trouble behaving myself, so there you have it. It wasn't, but I knew that it was good for me, and I knew the times that I did my mat before my performance, I was on my leg, I danced better, and my body felt better. So even though I was young and stupid, I was smart enough to realize that I was better off doing it.
Yeah.
But my shift for the love of it happened when I had my son, and I was teaching dance, and I was teaching a mat class, and I had my own little studio. One of my students herniated her disc, and the doctors told her that she wasn't going to dance again, and that she'd probably, she really messed up her back. She was doing a trampoline. And that she would probably always have pain. And I said to her, Jen, I said, just come to my house. And I started teaching her what I knew intuitively. I wasn't a teacher. I just had trained my body. And I think that's what's missing with today's instructors, is they have to train themselves. They have to be trained first before they can understand somebody else's. And so I started training her, and she was back dancing in 4 months. And she later became an instructor, but then she became some fabulous lawyer in Brooklyn who is, doing all these great things for women. She's an amazing young woman. But that was when I really realized that this was my path and that I should be there. I should be here.
I'm looking at your things.
How lucky to find that out
Yeah,
early, because
I
I
know.
don't think there's rhyme or reason, and I think at any age you can learn your path, and some of the most interesting, fascinating, 40-year-olds I've met are people who aren't entirely sure of their path. So how lucky are you that you
blessed.
discovered your
Yeah.
path so young?
Blessed,
Yeah.
truly.
All right, so we know that you are a kick-ass Pilates instructor. We know that you are an amazing dog trainer and breeder and whatnot with the dog world. We know that you are a badass second-degree black belt. What is next for you? Because you also said you're a lifelong learner. So what's next?
That's a great question, Sharon.
Right?
I can't imagine.
Right. So right now, I have a passion project with my daughter.
Okay.
She is a psychologist who focuses on eating disorder and trauma, and I am a recovering eating disorder.
Yeah.
I am a recovered eating disorder. I was anorexic and bulimic during my dance years, and sometime post. Yeah. No, right before. Yeah, in and out. So we actually have been working together to develop a documentary, which we've completed, on my recovery and her in the clinical world and what brought her to that, and how the two of us together are trying to make a space where people feel safe to come forward. And where they can find healing, and not necessarily through talk therapy or what, there's so many different modalities, but to take this shameful, taboo subject and put it out there. So I'm learning a lot about how to do that with this documentary that we have just got finished putting together. We're on the final segments of it, and moving forward to help. At the end of the day, you get to a point in your life and you say, what can I do to make this world a better place, right? What can I do? And so I really feel that this is something that I can do that will help people.
And I love that you're doing it. I'm sure we're thinking the same thing. We had a guest on our show not too long ago, Lizzie Thomas, who texted me yesterday to remind me that she has listened to every episode. So thank you, Lizzie. But Lizzie has struggled with an eating disorder for the last 15 years, and she spoke very openly about it. It is the one episode that got the most, it triggered the most response.
Yes.
So it's been interesting that people were really saying, for Lauren and I specifically, that we're not experts and we shouldn't be speaking about it. And my response was, but Lizzie's an expert in her journey and what she's gone through, and she was brave enough to share her story. But it's more universal than we would think.
It is one of the deadliest illnesses. It is the most deadly mental health disease. People die from suicide of it. They die from heart attacks of it, and it's all not. It's not written down that it is. Why the motivation behind. My daughter is so well versed on this. She speaks all over.
I like how you talked about, getting rid of the stigma, getting rid of the shame, because on a slight tangent here, it's like everything you read about the weight loss shot, and it's not the point of whether or not you agree if it's medically good or bad or what have you. It's just the shame surrounding someone's choice to do something to be more fit. And I sort of feel like it's just the skinny girl who's mad that her friend that used to be overweight is now, thin and wants to shame her for how she went about, choosing that path in her life. And to me, like I said, it's not about whether you agree with, maybe there's further studies that are needed, what have you, for this medicine or that medicine. But to me, with anything in life, it's just we need to stop shaming one another, making fun of one another, judging one another, and just supporting one another. Just sort of the golden rule of treating other people how you want to be treated. And so I think that's like a trigger for me, and that you mentioned the shame, and so it's so wonderful the thought of you guys doing a documentary, because how great that would be if everyone was able to come forward and say, yes, I have an eating disorder, I'm bulimic, I make myself throw up, and they wouldn't have to worry that they would, lose their friends or get fired from a job, or everyone would whisper and point at them,
Or look at what you're eating.
Yeah, what
right?
a wonderful world that
right.
would be.
Yeah.
Zoe and I, years ago, we started this thing, Candid Conversations. And it was she and I chatting, and this was before she had her doctorate. And the first one was eating disorders. And I, was very open about my situation. I can't tell you how many people came forward. And they were able to seek help because they felt safe, they felt seen, they felt heard. It's a brutal illness that steals life and joy from people. And being on the other side, and there's no miraculous cure, there's no step-by-step, everybody's path is going to be different to their path to recovery, and they're going to fall and pick up and fall and pick up and fall and pick up. But at the end of the day, we have to take the shame away from it. We also have to remove this whole stigma of size and elitism. And we have to understand that everybody's being is different than the other. And just accept each other for who we are, and not think that someone is more elite because they are one way or less elite because they're another. That we just
accept it on. That'd be an interesting note to Google or do some research and see if they have less incidences in, say, like the Nordic countries, where they have such a different way of life there than we do in America. Whereas, let's take jobs, for example. You're no better being a lawyer or doctor than the garbage man, than an electrician. It's just a job everyone has. There's not this elitist mentality. And so, to that note, with everything being intertwined, I wonder if I ponder if they have less issues with eating disorders there, how people view themselves, less suicide.
I'm going to let you talk to my daughter on this.
Yeah.
No, she honestly, I don't want to comment because I know, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not an authority. But
no, I'm saying though, I wonder.
Yeah, there is. No, there is. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
There's a huge in social status.
We'd love to have your daughter on the podcast.
Oh, she would love it.
I know, that would be amazing.
She would love it. Zoe, yeah. She would love it.
I have a niece named Zoe.
Oh,
Yeah,
life.
Life.
Life. But it is something that is so that's what's next. I want to help break that stigma. I want to help inform people of places that they can go and be supported. I want to leave the world a little better place.
Well, we have one final question, but I have to say I am so impressed with you because you very nonchalantly also said my daughter who has a doctorate. and I am just like, okay, you are like the epitome of superwoman to me.
No.
And no, I'm very, very impressed and admire you and all you've done. And thank you for sharing that with us. So we always ask our guests one final question before we say goodbye, and that is, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, you're going to make me cry. What advice would I give my younger self? love yourself. Just love yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Just love you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, at the end of the day, it's not about looking for the approval from somebody else. You need to love yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're always looking outside when we should be looking within,
exactly.
right? And you are loved, Tang Squad.
Yes, you are. We see you, we hear you, we are you.
We are you.
We are
Well
you.
said, yeah. Well said. We're not Kathy, because she's Superwoman.
We're not Kathy. Like,
Totally.
yeah.
But we love you too, Kathy.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing this time with me and for letting me be heard. And really, it's been absolutely more amazing than I could ever anticipated.
Oh, well, we feel the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now to sign up for Pilates and buy a book and get in better
Wait till
shape.
you guys see me in 30 days.
I want to see you in 30 days.
Right?
All right. And with that, we say to our Hang Squad,
Peace out, Girl Scout.
peace out, friends.